This is Justin Orenduff, DVS Baseball, and we're going to look at a comparison between Jacob deGrom here in 2021 versus Mariano Rivera in 1997 while pitching in the All-Star game. And I'm using these two videos because they are similar in center field camera, offset slightly to the left side. And what you're going to find is we're going to use this center field view to illustrate the difference in trunk flexion to extension and the timing and the sequencing differences between deGrom and Rivera. So we'll start first with deGrom. And if you followed along in the article, you've already seen me talk about this adjustment in a little bit more detail. So this just kind of provides a comparison. But as you'll find here, this would be the point to when we're breaking out of the glove, the trunk's staying in flexion here. And then as I referenced also in the video, this kind of would be deGrom's bottom. Okay, so his arms are basically fully extended. If we go over here to the right, this would be Rivera's bottom. So at this point, you can see that the elbow is essentially still in front of the shoulder in that sagittal plane as it is here. So what would need to occur is we would want to gradually or quickly start to see this kind of Mets logo in terms of his thoracic spine be able to start to change and shift into extension and not necessarily stay down in flexion. So if we continue in our frames, you'll see here is where that elbow starts to pull, leading to that retraction of the shoulder in this frame here. So what happens is when we're staying now in this part, we're starting to get tension. We're getting more tension. We're getting more tension, more tension. And then from here comes that, rotation of the rear hip. And then right in this frame here is where we're getting a lot of that tension in the capsule as the shoulder is now externally rotating. And then there we're into foot strike. Okay, so it's right about here is where we're in foot strike. And it's just, if you can see, I'll go now to Rivera, and I'm going to fast forward to Rivera. But you can just see that in the differences of where the elbow position is, their forearm, we can see that if I kind of stay relative to this spine here of deGrom and I look at the relative position of the forearm, that these are different. And with Rivera, they're very similar. And they're very similar simply because the trunk, along with the forearm and the rear hip, they're moving with each other. They're in sequence there. The trunk is helping the rear hip turn. The trunk is helping the forearm rotate up. And this is what we would refer to as being really on time. Okay, so if you go back here to the Rivera clip, you can see as he approaches the bottom here, well, now we get that chest starting to expand. We're starting to move into extension. You see in the rear hip turn, the forearms coming up. And this is where the shoulder's under so much less tension prior to the external rotation of the shoulder. And then when we get into foot strike, now we can start to get into the max external rotation of the shoulder. We can build, that loading there into the explode of the ball release. And now we were able to do it in a much more efficient manner. And by the way, this was an all-star game, but this is Rivera throwing a pitch 97 miles per hour. And in terms of someone who was really consistent timing-wise with late break and was able to pitch for a long period of time, yes, one's a starter, one's a reliever, but we look at longevity and be able to fulfill your role. So, in kind of recap here, the frames that you want to pay most important to is just when you get to the bottom, and we want to start to see here, some extension here in the trunk to start taking away some of that capsule tightness. They kind of, to me, gets them in trouble, and you just don't need to do it. So that would be the fix that we're referring to in deGrom's delivery. Thanks so much.